It's Messi! It is the cleanest of clean finishes from the best on the planet.
It's time for the biggest sports stories.
Liverpool, the champions of Europe, are top of the world.
The biggest interviews.
That such a great spectacle is ruined by such thuggish behavior.
And all the analysis right here.
He's the one player that has the arrogance to think that he can play in any stadium in the world and any pitch in the world in front of any player in the world and take them on.
Every weekday, it's my sport, it's your sport. It's ZiFM Sport. Let's join the team for the biggest show in the world of sport on ZiFM Stereo. My station, your station.
So very good evening, Zimbabwe. Welcome to ZiFM Sport on a Friday, our preview show. It's always a good one when there's sport to look forward to, and there's plenty of sport all over the world. But before we get into what you can look forward to today, we want to start by sending our commiserations and heartfelt condolences for the loss of Sean's grandfather, who incidentally is former Dynamos player Charles Bwatidzo. May the Holy Spirit assuage the pain of the family's loss at this difficult time. But like the trooper that he is, Sean is actually on the show, so we'll talk to him a bit later on. Also here are the ZiFM Sports team, Mike Madoda, Alois Bunjira, and the rest. That's me, Barry Manandi. Now on the home front, former Black Rhinos defender Gift Saunyama has made an impassioned plea to footballers to prepare for life after football by making full use of their popularity during their playing days in the wake of Caps United's impasse over outstanding salaries.
In international sports news, rugby is back, and All Black star player Borden Barrett will make his Blues debut from fullback as opposed to first five or fly half, if you call it, as the Auckland franchise named their team for their Super Rugby Aotearoa opener against the Wellington Hurricanes. In around the world in 60, we have big news from Texas, where Justin Rode and Howard Varner III shared the spoils on the opening day of golf's return to competition on the PGA Tour, 91 days after the Players' Championship was abandoned. In London, athletes competing in the 2022 Commonwealth Games in Birmingham, England, will be allowed to take a knee in support of worldwide anti-racism movements, competition organisers have announced. And we'll touch base in Manchester, where Tyson Fury has stoked the flames ahead of his planned doubleheader against Anthony Joshua by claiming he's a bigger puncher than his heavyweight rival.
In the beautiful game, we kick off in La Liga, where Lucas Ocampos and Fernando did the derby damage as Sevilla boosted their Champions League hopes with a 2-0 home win over Real Betis when the season resumed last night. This weekend, it will be the turn of Atletico Madrid to fight for a Champions League spot when they visit the Athletic Club of Bilbao. In the Bundesliga, Borussia Mönchengladbach will be aiming to repeat their heroics from their 2-1 win over Bayern Munich in the reverse fixture when they visit the Allianz Arena as they continue their pursuit of Champions League football. In Serie A, that's in Italy, of course, where Juventus and AC Milan will be the first two sides back in action following the suspension of the Italian football when they face each other in tonight's second leg of their Coppa Italia semi-final. And in the Premier League, players will pay tribute to worldwide anti-racism movements by wearing shirts with the words Black Lives Matter on the back during the opening round of fixtures at the season's restart, which is, next week. All of that and so much more to look forward to on this edition of Fire Friday. And it's going to be a Fire Friday. We always start with our power play. Today's no different. And we call upon the vocal talents of Aluna and Aluna George. It's featuring SG Lewis. It's called Warrior.
The Home Front. Local sports news and analysis. From Rufaro to Barberfields, Mandawa to Nyamunga, all the perfect moments in the Castle Lager Premier Soccer League come together on ZiFM Sport.
Time for our local sports news roundup, but before we get into that proper, firstly, Sean, thanks for being on the show at this difficult time, but allow me to say, with all respect, I had no idea you were related to a legend.
Yes, first of all, I just want to thank you guys for your words of kindness and support to myself and my family. And yeah, Charles Batizo was my grandfather, may his soul rest in peace. He's the one who actually got me into football. Big Dynamos fan, even when, he stopped playing. And our grab together, just banter was that I'm a Highlanders fan. So it was always nice going back and forth. And he always wanted me to play football. So kind of a pity I let him down.
You let him down. Is it a case of 2 left feet, or you just decided you're going to play tennis or other sports, Sean?
See, the problem is I was fed that propaganda in high school that football is not cool, and I decided to play other sports even though I was
rugby and cricket.
Exactly. So that's a mistake I made. I was too cool for football, but something I low-key regret now, because I was actually called back for trials when I performed really well in goal, incidentally.
You're a goalkeeper. Wow.
Well, you'd be enemies with Alois, that's for sure, because Alois loved getting past goalkeepers. But news of Zimbabwean football is first up, where former Black Rhinos defender Gift Saunyama has made an impassioned plea to footballers to prepare for life after football by making full use of their popularity during their playing days in the wake of Caps United's impasse over outstanding salaries. Writing on his Facebook timeline, the gangly Saunyama, who also played for Dynamos, said inactivity in the past couple of months due to the coronavirus COVID-19 must be a wake-up call for footballers to invest wisely. He said footballers' lives must inspire young ones to take up sport as a career that is viable, even though returns on the local scene are not that good, but opportunities to pursue other ventures are plenteous. He had this to say: my clarion call to fellow local players is that we must plan our lives past football now, while we are still generating some income, and have this level of attention and interest. If we learnt nothing from those who played the game before us, let us draw lessons from these last few months. Footballers are role models, and how we manage the opportunities our careers present to us during and after football should inspire the next generation of footballers. It should inspire young people to take up sport as a career that is viable, even if they are to spend their entire career locally. The words there of Gift Saunyama, and Alois, I'm sure you'll agree, if he wasn't a footballer, Gift Saunyama could easily have been a literary genius, because this is very well written and makes lots of sense.
Yeah, it does make a lot of sense, Barry. It's good to actually have a few footballers that are still active talking about it. I'm not so sure about if the Caps United issue is a lesson to that effect, because the COVID thing is affecting everybody. It's affecting every company, every corporate has been affected, But I think when you look at the situation, what I like about what he said was about making use of the popularity that we have now, because it's not viable at the moment in Zimbabwe, and it can be inspiring. Right now, football is not inspiring at all. No parent would want their child to go out and play football. So for me, that's not up to the footballers to do that. I think the way football is being handled, is being administered, and the way football is being portrayed out there is so uninspiring. I don't know what footballers can do about it, because they are also affected. They are victims of whatever is happening to football. But the lesson that he has actually talked about that is very, very clean and clever is make hay while the sun shines. Or you can actually say, you make use of your name, but they can't be using that name now. You can only use that name when you retire. So what he needs maybe to adjust his statement a little bit is to say that keep on branding yourself. Make sure that your brand stays strong and grow it while you have got this popularity. Yes, you are earning a living now, and the money that you are earning is for now. But make sure that the brand that you are making now will earn you a living when you retire from football. Or else, whatever you are earning right now, invest in yourself. Use that popularity, invest in yourself, so that it can work for you after football. Then yes, I do agree with him, but it makes a lot of sense.
I get where Alice is coming from, Mike, and again, it does make sense that make sure that your name is big enough to carry you beyond your playing career. It's happened to countless names outside of the country and in Europe and all sorts and the Americas. But there is an argument, you've got to say, towards using your name and your brand now, because this is when you are popular. This is when your name can possibly give you a bit more income than what you get from solely your footballing activities. Again, it happens worldwide.
Yeah, it happens worldwide, Barry. If we have to take a look at the worldwide model, and that's something that's also crept into South Africa, kept into North Africa, and to some extent into East Africa, Kenya and Tanzania mainly, is that there are two main income revenue streams for footballers. That is your wage, what you get from your football club as a result of you offering a service to them, training and playing for them. And then you get paid at the end of the week or at the end of the month, depending on your contract. The second are endorsements that come in from corporates. So you find out that players like Lionel Messi, players like Cristiano Ronaldo earn far much more from endorsements and personal corporate partnerships and sponsorships than they do from their salaries at Juventus and Barcelona, namely. Now, in Zimbabwe, Barry, the sad fact is that we only have one revenue stream that's open to our footballers, and that is the wage that they receive from their football club. So for Gift Saunyama, this would have been the money that he'd have been getting from Dynamos when he was turning out for Dimbare, or the money that he was getting from Black Rhinos when he was turning out for Chipembere. But when it comes to endorsements, we have seen that in Zimbabwe, our market, Barry, is very immature when it comes to that particular aspects. And it's not just a problem that's bedeviling football, it bedevils sport in Zimbabwe in general. How many of our sports stars, even the biggest ones, even the most popular ones, even the ones that have got a clean slate as far as their character and their behavior is concerned, have got endorsements? I think I can only think of maybe Razabut. He's got an endorsement or two. You're taking a look at maybe the Minister Kirsty Coventry in her time. She had an endorsement or two, that sort of thing. But we are talking about Hamilton Masakadza, but we are talking, Barry, of just a handful of sports stars. So that is where the problem is, Barry, where, yes, their brand equity might be higher now, but unfortunately they can't cash in on it in this environment that we have in Zimbabwe. So what they now need to do, yes, they can sort of like make sure or maintain that brand equity, Barry, going forward, but they also need to buttress that brand post-football. What do they need to do? They need to get some education. They need to get some training. They need to enhance their skills in different areas. So there are options like, can I become a football agent? Can I become a football coach? Can I become a scout? We have seen Ezra Mnyandoro is now a scout in the South African football system, employed by Mamelodi Sundowns. We have seen Peter Ndlovu, he's become a manager, so he's become an administrator in the South African football system. We have seen players who are able to transition, and the big challenge for our players now is to say, football might not be paying me as much now, but what can I do to transition from football to a life post-football? Alois Munjira is with us on the show right now. What has he done? He has become a pundit, so he's working in the media space. That's one area where our footballers could go, because I sort of like look around the Zimbabwe scene, Barry, the media scene. Apart from Charles Munjira, apart from David Sengu at Star FM, how many of these players are you seeing who are working in the media space? I think Ronald Sibanda does stuff with Muziwetu Hadebe in Bulawayo. That's him. But we're talking again of a handful of footballers, Barry. So these footballers have got to empower themselves to have a life beyond football, because like they always say, Barry, bora arina pension. Once you're done, you're done.
Of course. Yeah, and Alice, you're probably the perfect person to speak into this, because you made the transition successfully out of football, a professional career, into having a professional career after football. So you're doing media work. You've got a consultancy. You do fitness and nutrition consulting for various institutions. You're doing a lot of things. you got an academy, you're doing a lot of things that touch on football and touch on sport, but it is things that are sustaining your livelihood. This is a model that obviously players have got to aspire to. How do you get there?
Yeah, I think Barry, you need to understand that, you know, when you got the skill, when you get the skill to play football, it was a calling. That was God giving you a skill for your livelihood. So for me, that's where I look at it. So it doesn't end after your playing career. It has to go on. You have to stay in football. There was no way I was going to get out of football. So if you look back and see what I am doing now, it is a combination of my skill, of that very football talent that I had, that I'm still using now. That's why I was saying that you need to transition now into something else, but it's that calling in football, that when you are giving back, when you are doing banditry, when you are doing something else that is intertwined with football. I might just even get into administering football as well. So it's coming all together with football. So it doesn't have to end after your playing career. You have to transition into something that is related, because football, your playing days are a stepping stone for you to get into something else out of football, inside football, but doing something else. So that's why, like Mike said, invest yourself into. You do want to be a coach, you want to be a sports administrator, you want to be a scout, because your calling is football. So don't get out of it, because you can't start a completely new career out of football unless you are double, you are double edged. When you are educated, you are an academic, like we saw some people like Arnold Tumba, Tawya Mrewa, they did that. Sometimes they branch completely from
guys like that.
Yes, exactly. So if you realize that you are somebody like that, educate yourself, like Mike said. Get an education, be a carpenter and all that. The other problem with footballers is about society. You feel, and I can't be a carpenter after football. Who said a footballer cannot be an engineer, cannot be a mechanic, cannot be a carpenter? You say the footballer cannot operate a fruit and veggie market. You can do it as long as you have found your niche. There you can make money and transition. Now use your popularity to create a very good clientele, because they will come and say, there is Alois who is now selling vegetables. I'm going to go and buy vegetables from Alois, who used to play for my team. You can actually use that and a living. But now they go into hiding a lot of that. So that's actually the problem. So that's it.
Yeah, you know what, Barry, I was just going through that post by Gift Saunyama on Facebook, and there's one thing that he says here which is very poignant. He says that if there's any lesson that players should take from the last few months, it is the hint of what life post-football would be like. Lots of time on our hands, but not enough resources. And he makes a fine point there, Gift Saunyama. And I think this is the perfect opportunity for players right now who are in the middle of their careers to assess themselves, to have what in Formula One they term a pit stop, to say, let's just check now, okay? How have I gone through the last 3 months? Have I struggled financially? Have I been able to stand up and live a normal life? If I find myself like the Caps United players confronting their vice president, over unpaid salaries, over unpaid dues, it means that I am not in a solid financial position. I am dependent on the institution that I'm representing now for my livelihood. It also means that when I part ways with football, when I part ways with the club that I'm playing for, I'm going to find myself back to square one. So I think right now,
situation.
You'll find yourself in this current situation as soon as your career is over. So I think Gift Saunyama for me, Barry, coming up with words of wisdom that if there's any player out there right now who's playing top flight football in Zimbabwe, they should read that post and have a bit of introspection.
Gift Saunyama, he certainly could become a writer, because it is phenomenally well written and well thought out as well, and saying some things that need to be said in our football. The update from Caps United, well, It looks like they've doused their flames. They have paid some of the players. We understand that about 6 players were paid. The ones who didn't participate in the industrial action, and the other salaries will be paid as well. No doubt there's a bit of angst still coming from the directors towards the players who staged that industrial action. But it looks like they are well capable of navigating these choppy waters and need to do so urgently. They are a big football club. We'll keep a firm eye on this one.
Hi, I'm Clemens Matau, chicken in midfielder. You're listening to ZiFM Sport.
Right, let's give you some local sports news update, and we start with football, where French multimillionaire businessman Jean-Michel Aulas has revealed Tino Kadewere beat intense competition to end up securing a 4.5-year deal with his Ligue 1 club Olympique Lyon in January. The 71-year-old Aulas, with a net worth of an estimated $700 million is the owner and president of Olympique Lyon, a club he took over in 1987, reeling from debt before transforming it into one of the giants of French football. His master plan saw him clear the debt, lift the club from the second division into 7-time champions of France, while also completing their stunning transformation into among the richest football clubs in the world. On Wednesday, Aulas officially unveiled his latest recruitment, Warriors international striker Tino Kadewere, who, like Karim Benzema and Alexander Lacazette before him, dreams of becoming a big star in Europe. We are stoked, we are excited, and at ZiFM Sport, we wish Tino Kadewere all the best. Moving on with our news, in volleyball news, the Bulawayo Volleyball Association has successfully held an executive programs meeting, which was held on Wednesday, and adopted 2 more commissions into its structures. In January, the BVA enlisted various committees into its structures as it seeks to make its brand more marketable and reach out to stakeholders more effectively. There were the Referees Commission, Players Commission, Marketing Commission, and Gender Commission. We also have some athletics news, where local athletes have been presented with an opportunity to directly qualify for international marathons after this year's Econet Victoria Falls Marathon was sanctioned as an official qualifying event of 2 major events. The 2020 and 2021 editions of the Econet Victoria Falls Marathon are official qualifying races for the 3rd edition of the Abbott World Marathon Majors Wonder Age Group World Ranking Series and the 2021 Comrades Marathon. The Abbott WMM Wonder Age Group World Rankings consist of 1-year qualifying period, during which athletes in 9 separate age groups can compete in marathons across the world to earn ranking points.
Hi, this is Mike Madod, and you can catch me and the team for all the latest breaking news out of the world of sport, local as well as international, on your favorite station, my station, your station, ZiFM. We are Z-Team on ZiFM Sport.
Z. From the front of the grid to the back of the net, it's ZiFM Sport. International Sports News Roundup, where the world comes out to play.
Rugby is back, and we are excited here at ZiFM Sport. New Zealand is going to be seeing some action, not just action, but also with packed stadiums. The fans are allowed to attend, and Borden Barrett will make his Blues debut from fullback as opposed to first 5, as the Auckland franchise named their team for their Super Rugby Aotearoa opener against the Hurricanes. Barrett will wear the 15 jersey against his former side, the Hurricanes, with Blues coach Liam McDonald keeping faith in Otere Black at the helm as the Blues rose to 3rd on the pre-COVID Super Rugby ladder. Let's get the pre-match thoughts of Borden Barrett.
Yeah, it's been a long time coming. Obviously, I had a date penciled into my mind pre-COVID, and it was against a team that I used to play for, and it's great that now get another opportunity. There's always that responsibility to play to our potential and do our fans proud. So, look, I know there's a lot of excitement out there personally from my team's point of view and the fans' point of view. So it's great that we can now have fans at the stadium, and what a place to kick it off. Look, it's so exciting. There's a lot of familiar faces in that team, and potentially on Sunday that I know very well. So it's a game that I've played a few times in my head already, and at the moment I'm just enjoying each day.
Z.
Just going through that run-on 15 for the Auckland Blues. It will be Borden Barrett at fullback, right wing, Mark Telea. On the left wing will be Caleb Clark. The midfield will consist of Rico Ioane and TJ Faiane. At 10, Otere Black. At 9, Sam Nock. At 8, Hoskins Sotutu. The two flanks will be Blake Gibson and Tom Robinson. The locks, Josh Goodhue and Patrick Tuipalutu, who's the captain. And then the front row will consist of props Ofa Tuingafasi, Alex Hodgman, and the hooker, James Parsons. Pretty strong starting 15 there, Barry. Recognizable names and a few All Blacks.
Certainly, and I think that's what makes it such a formidable lineup that the Blues are, the run-on 15 that you just went through, because the names are recognizable, but not only are they recognizable, and it's hard to say about any All Black, but these are very talented rugby players as well. So you got to think to yourself, it's a very strong side. And also take note, that's a run-on 15 that doesn't include veteran Dan Carter, who signed for the Blues. There's no place for him in the squad altogether. So it's a Blues team that is formidable.
Now, Alois, of course, you were a professional footballer, and I just wanted to find your thoughts on this one. How easily did you find it to change positions or to switch your favored position to meet the needs of a team or the request of a coach?
Yeah, basically, Mike, when you play football, I think it becomes very easy to be versatile. I actually think that for people, especially when you have played street football, if you play street football, you become versatile because you basically play everywhere. When I was growing up in primary school, I was actually a goalkeeper for my second team and playing up front for the first team. So basically, I was actually a goalkeeper. Why? Because in the street, sometimes so sometimes keeper. In the next minute, you are now playing. So you become that kind of versatile. So I used to do that. At Sundowns, I was a right back. At Cape United, I was a winger. At Darrenty, I was a winger, and I was playing striker at Western University. So it's very easy if you are versatile.
Yeah, very easy if you're versatile, Barry, and versatility certainly is the hallmark of New Zealand rugby. We see many of their backs able to operate in different positions. Last week when we talked about Dan Carter returning to the New Zealand franchise setup, we were wondering what position he was going to be playing. Was he going to play as a fly half? Was he going to play as a first centre or as a second centre, because he has that versatility? Borden Barrett, who plays fly half for the All Blacks, is starting at number 15, and that's what you see from New Zealand rugby, isn't it? And that's what makes them so exciting. The very fact that even in their selection, they're unpredictable.
Yeah, unpredictable in their selection, and also it means that the versatility in game management becomes a lot easier, because when there is cover required for a particular line or a particular defensive strategy, those players are able to implement very quickly. And Borden Barrett himself, he's no stranger to the fullback position, and he has shown that he's a very good fullback in world rugby. I was about to say football. In world rugby, he's not just a make good or a make weight for the team. He certainly is good in that position. So very impressive, the versatility that the New Zealand rugby players have.
While the visitors on Sunday afternoon to Eden Park are the Hurricanes, and just taking a look at the team they've chosen, lots of really, really good players. Vince Aso and Ngani Laumape in midfield. Ben Lam has been scoring tries for fun. He is at left wing. They also have their skipper, TJ Perinara, who co-skippers the side with Dane Coles, who's playing at hooker. And then, of course, they got the likes of Wes Goosen, the South African born, who's playing at right wing. So it's an exciting team. And the one thing that we are guaranteed is to watch some exciting rugby this weekend. But that's not the only match.
No, it isn't, because Chiefs coach Warren Gatland is backing Caleb Trask at first five with the youngster named to start ahead of former All Black Aaron Cruden against the Highlanders in Dunedin on Sunday. The 21-year-old plays just his fifth Super Rugby match, relegating Cruden to the bench. Elsewhere, All Blacks duo Nepo Laulala and Luke Jacobson both start, while Lachlan Boshier, arguably the form player of 2020 before the COVID-19 shutdown, moves to open side flanker with Sam Cane ruled out.
I'm JC Krill, Springbok and Blue Bulls backline player. You are listening to ZiFM Sport.
Around the world in 60 seconds. International sports news.
Takeoff is in Texas, where Justin Rose and Harold Varner III shared the spoils on the opening day of golf's return to competition on the PGA Tour 91 days after the Players' Championship was abandoned. The Charles Schwab Challenge might be out of bounds to spectators, but neither the eerie atmosphere or the lengthy break in tournament golf seemed to have an adverse effect on the scoring at Colonial Country Club, with Rose and Varner leading the way after 7 under 63s. News out of London is that athletes competing in the 2022 Commonwealth Games in Birmingham, England, will be allowed to take a knee in support of worldwide anti-racism movements, competition organisers said. Commonwealth Games organisers say they would respect people's rights to voice their opinions. They're quoted as saying the movement is challenging all institutions to really look introspectively at what we can do to be more fair, more free, have better equality. Sport is no different. The words of Commonwealth Games Chief Executive David Gravenberg. He went on to say, we are comfortable with the uncomfortable conversation and we need to embrace it. And we here at ZiFM Sport say, here, 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 here. We touched down in Manchester, where Tyson Fury has stoked the flames ahead of his planned double-header against Anthony Joshua by claiming he's a bigger puncher than his heavyweight rival. It was confirmed by Joshua's promoter Eddie Hearn this week that the British duo have reached an agreement for 2 unification fights next year. Fury's stunning victory over Deontay Wilder in the February rematch to reclaim the WBC bout was also his 21st career knockout, although he reached that mark in 7 more fights than Joshua. Despite that, Fury says he agrees with Frank Warren's suggestion that he is the more devastating puncher.
Hi, I'm Warriors coach Zdravko Logarušić and you are listening to ZiFM Sport.
Sports with a difference. Z. The big leagues, the big teams, the big players. The beautiful game on ZiFM Sport. The league that makes football oh so beautiful, where artistry and strokes of genius are the order of any day, where the game is played with a smile and the little master creates his magic.
It's Lionel Messi!
All the news from the Spanish La Liga on ZiFM Sport.
The goal the world wanted!
La Liga is back, and it started last night where Lucas Ocampos and Fernando did the derby damage as Sevilla boosted their Champions League hopes with a 2-0 home win over Real Betis when the La Liga season resumed last night. The first top-flight match in Spain since March the 10th saw the Roman Sanchez Pizjuan stands deserted, albeit with piped-in crowd chanting and a bank of CGI supporters generating some kind of atmosphere. It was a bit of a surreal, synthetic game yesterday, and you got to think to yourself, it took a bit of time for the game to warm up, but when it did, we saw some quality football here, Alice.
Yeah, I think you know, like the Bundesliga as well. The games were kind of like jittery. You remember we spoke about the Dortmund match, which didn't produce, you know, the quality that we really wanted. But at least this one, it warmed up, and later on, players, I think they came to their fore and they started playing. And at the end of the day, it was actually good football that we watched. No, we had missed football, guys. So we would take anything, you know. So we watched, we enjoyed. And but it was a good thing that it improved later on. Then it was actually quite a good game, and I'm very happy that I also got vindicated that, you know what, when Sevilla decides to come and play, they can actually play. So they are not pushovers, and they'll surely be fighting for that top 4 finish, and they've got the quality to do that.
And play they did, didn't they, Michael? Because in fact, almost as diametric opposites, the 2 players involved in the penalty that caused that first goal. You had Mark Batra, probably had one of his worst games in a Real Betis shirt, and then the man who then stepped up and took the penalty, Lucas Ocampos. My goodness, it looked like he had never left the football field. He was phenomenal, and this is a guy who we didn't even think was going to play. You said on yesterday's show that he was cleared to play in the game and it was going to be coming out of an injury concern. And he hit the ground running, didn't he?
Yeah, absolutely, Barry. And Ocampos is not a name that's familiar to a lot of football fans unless you're an astute follower of La Liga. But he's a solid performer week in, week out. And his combination in attack with De Jong and El Haddadi, again, names that don't immediately appeal to the regular football fan, but they have got a solid and well-balanced team. That's why yesterday, in the build-up to this match, I talked about Sevilla being the better team. They've got a better balance. They've got a better structure about their team. They've got a lot of continuity in their team. You take a look at Real Betis. Real Betis has got some really star quality names that we recognize. Christian Teo, we remember him, of course, from his time at Barcelona. We also remember Nabil Fekir. Nabil Fekir is a player that was pursued and courted by a number of big clubs, including Liverpool. During his time at Lyon, he's a full French international, a World Cup winner, and he's a solid performer. And
Alenya
as well. But the problem is, whilst they have star quality, they don't have the balance that Sevilla has. And that's why Sevilla were able to win the derby yesterday. I think this was a victory of the team over star quality. And I think Sevilla, for me, an important victory in their quest to qualify for the Champions League.
Now, Julian Lopetegui has certainly built himself a team in the Sevilla team that we saw play last night, and I agree with Mike. It was a victory of a team over star quality. La Liga fixtures this weekend. Granada will host Getafe while Valencia take on Levante. It's Espanyol versus Alaves. Celta Vigo entertain Villarreal while Leganes take on Real Valladolid. Barcelona travel to Mallorca while Real Madrid entertain Aiba at the Santiago Bernabeu. Real Sociedad will take on Osasuna, and one of the big games of the weekend is the Athletic Club of Bilbao taking on Atletico Madrid. And Atletico Madrid have been a big disappointment in Liga this season and sit outside the Champions League places as they get back underway with a tricky trip to Bilbao with Barcelona and Real Madrid far from their best this term. The stage should have been set for Diego Simeone's men to mount a title challenge, but they sit in sixth place when football went into lockdown, 14 points off the lead, and face a fight to secure their place at Europe's top table next season. Big chance for Atletico Madrid, with Real Madrid stuttering and trying to find form. Barcelona in probably one of their worst ways that we've seen them in recent memory. Atletico Madrid should have been able to take advantage of this, but my goodness, what a low return from Diego Simeone and his men, Alois.
Yeah, they might look at themselves and say this is a chance to take advantage, but they are themselves also stuttering. They are actually stuttering worse than Real Madrid and Barcelona. So it's very difficult. I see a situation. We have always talked about it, that in Spanish football you always have Real Madrid and your Barcelona. Then your number 3 you start struggling. But Atletico Madrid, it kind of like made it a three team league. In Spain, like you have your Real Madrid, Barcelona, and Atletico Madrid. Then the other fourth place was going to be a fight by the other teams, but they have decided to disengage themselves from that number 3 position to be also ranked, to be in that bunch of teams that are fighting for the other 2 places. And it's not going to be very easy for them to retain that number 3 slot as like what we're now used to in the past few years. We knew that his top 3 is sorted. So now they're going to be struggling with the rest of the bunch, and I feel sorry. They need to do something about it because they are going downwards, and they might just find themselves as a middle table team. If they don't do something about it, it will just be left with their name only.
Mike, when we realized, and long ago, thankfully early in the season, we discussed the woes and troubles at Atletico Madrid, and we spoke about the fact that it looked like Diego Simeone was abandoning his normal tactic of being stoically defensive and then hitting teams on the break and trying to be a lot more entertaining, a lot more attacking. And then we saw the old Diego Simeone, the old Atletico Madrid, show up in the two legs against Liverpool in the Champions League. To their credit, they managed to progress in that competition. So perhaps Diego Simeone might have learned something from that he don't fix it if it ain't broke.
Yeah, Barry, and it's just not in the 2 matches versus Liverpool where that return to the old system has surfaced. It's also in the more recent games in La Liga. If you take a look at their form, I think in the last 5 matches, they haven't lost any games. They have won 2 matches and drawn 3. So they picked up 9 points. They are not losing. And I think he's gone back to that template where he's saying to teams, you know what, you're not going to break us down. The challenge that they are facing, Atletico Madrid, is goals. Diego Costa, for me, is well past his prime. Morata has never been a consistent and reliable source of goals. And so that is the problem that is facing Atletico Madrid at the moment. But I think he's going to go back to his old methods in a bid to secure Champions League football. I think he feels that he can win more points playing that way, where if he can sneak a goal, shut shop, and make sure that he doesn't concede and hopefully bag all the points. The plus for Atletico Madrid heading into this fixture is that they come up against an Athletic Club of Bilbao side who is in arguably worse form than they are. They've got 6 points from their last 5 matches. They've lost 3 games. They've won just 2. And so this is a game that Diego Simeone's Atletico Madrid side will need to win if they harbor any chances whatsoever, any hopes of qualifying for the Champions League. They lose this game to Athletic Club. I think qualification for the Champions League may be a very difficult task.
In which case they would have to try and go out and win the competition outright, which isn't out of the bounds of reason, especially if Diego Simeone continues with his tried and trusted method of defend, and will sneak one the other way.
Can I just say something though, Barry? I don't think they can go on and win the Champions League. They dodged a bullet versus Liverpool. A lot of people say, they knocked out Liverpool, but they dodged a bullet. Liverpool should have had them buried at halftime. And the fact that Liverpool scored 2 goals, but then considered 3, that's, they're good sides that are left in this competition. Your Barcelona's, your Manchester City, your Bayern Munich's, those teams you will not be able to keep out. Believe me, sure. You're not going to keep Barcelona scoreless. You're not going to keep Bayern Munich scoreless. Those teams will score. And so I think that is the problem that Atletico Madrid is facing this season. Football continues in Germany. Borussia Mönchengladbach will be aiming to repeat their heroics from their 2-1 win over Bayern Munich in the reverse fixture when they visit the Allianz Arena as they continue their pursuit of Champions League football. Bayern Munich could wrap up an 8th consecutive Bundesliga title this weekend, but top scorer Robert Lewandowski is suspended for the clash, with Marcus Thuram's Borussia Mönchengladbach also missing. Interesting, isn't it, that the 2 top strikers from these teams that are clashing in this key match, Alois, are both missing.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. But anyway, it's going to be interesting to see how the clubs are going to perform without those 2. I'm sure that if it ends up a goalless draw, these players will pat themselves on the back and say, what, we are the man. We are the ones that score goals for these 2 clubs. But I see Bayern Munich wrapping up this one. If you ask me, yes, Mönchengladbach, they are fighting for the Champions League place. They will come guns blazing at the Allianz Arena. But let's be honest, Bayern Munich have got a better team. Even without Lewandowski, they still have a better team. And what I like about Bayern Munich, they play football. If you don't know them, if you watch the ball being rotated, you won't know who the star player is in that team. You will see the ball just moving around. It was something spectacular. Then you want to see who was that. But the overall play, the ball is just moving. They play as a team. That's one thing that I like about watching Bayern Munich. They play good football as a team.
Can I throw this in though, Barry, which will surprise a lot of football fans, is that Borussia Mönchengladbach, yes, they might be the lesser team, but their record versus Bayern Munich over the last 5 matches, absolutely outstanding. They've actually won 3 of their last 5 matches with Bayern Munich. Yeah. So they are a team that knows how to beat the champions.
Yeah, it's a team that knows how to beat the champions. And also, on their day can beat anyone, and especially when you've got Thuram available. He's not available this time. However, the coach is hoping that if Breel Imbolo is available, then you've still got that threat in attack. So
he gives up a lot of thrust, Barry. Breel Imbolo.
That name though.
Certainly does. He certainly does.
Then there are the likes of Lars Stindl as well. I think he's been directly involved in a goal in 5 of his 7 games against Bayern with the Gladbach. 3 goals and 2 assists. He has won 4, drawn 1, and lost just 2 of those games. So he's available for Borussia Mönchengladbach. Does it help, Barry, the fact that Borussia Mönchengladbach, just by their setup, they play positive attacking football. They're direct. They've got quick players who, if they get the ball in those wide areas, they could pose trouble for Bayern Munich.
They certainly could, and I think that it behoves Bayern Munich to be weary of that attack from out wide. The one benefit that I think Bayern Munich has is that I think that Hansi Flick has now got a balance in that back four, moving Alaba to centre half, partnering with Boateng. You've got a fast player with Boateng whose legs, to be fair, are going, and then you've got the quick wing backs in Pavard and young Alphonso Davies. So you've got the required pace to attack as well. So I think there's a healthy balance. This one is one team versus another team. This isn't going to be broken by some star quality. It's going to be a question of which team shows up on the day.
Alois, Barry has just mentioned that central defensive partnership of Boateng next to Alaba. Alaba, who we've seen play as a left back and even as a left side attacking midfielder. But he's been brought in to partner Boateng, and they formed a formidable centre-back partnership because Alaba is playing that covering role. And I remember us having a conversation 2 weeks ago on the combination of Van Dijk and Gomez. It's almost a similar fit, isn't it, Boateng and Alaba?
Yeah, it's fitting perfectly. You know, when you see Alaba, he is quick. You know, he is very skillful. He is the one that starts play. He is there when we need to cool down the pace, when you need to play around in the box, when you have to get out of there, he has then you've got the steal of Boateng as well, and the height of Boateng. So I think Alaba's lack of height is covered by Boateng. They just gel as a pair. What I like about Alaba coming into the central defense position is his ability to hold the ball, his ability to calm things down. Even when things are tight, he can slow down things and start from the back, which is actually the strength of Bayern Munich. And I was thinking about it, that if they want to beat Borussia Mönchengladbach, they have to keep the ball away from Borussia Mönchengladbach.
All right, let's give you your Bundesliga fixtures for this weekend. Hoffenheim versus RB Leipzig. Cologne will entertain Union Berlin. Fortuna Düsseldorf versus Borussia Dortmund. Must-win game there for Borussia Dortmund. Hertha Berlin versus Eintracht Frankfurt. Werder Bremen will visit Paderborn. Wolfsburg will host Freiburg. Mainz versus Augsburg. Key fixture, this one, Schalke, free-falling. They welcome Bayer Leverkusen, who are chasing Champions League football. But the pick of the fixtures is the match that we've just previewed. It's Bayern Munich, the champions elect, some would say, because they are so close to yet another championship. They are taking on Borussia Mönchengladbach, who are chasing Champions League football.
All right, now Juventus and AC Milan will be the first two sides back in action following the suspension of Italian football when they face each other in tonight's second leg of their Coppa Italia semi-final. Football in Italy was halted on the 9th of March because of the coronavirus pandemic. Cristiano Ronaldo's controversial late penalty for Juve meant the first leg ended 1-1 on the 13th of February. Meanwhile, in England, English Premier League players will pay tribute to worldwide anti-racism movements by wearing shirts with the words Black Lives Matter on the back during the opening round of fixtures at the season's restart next week, British media has reported. Let's come back to the Coppa Italia tie tonight. Juventus versus AC Milan, delicately poised going into the second leg. This one is all to play for, and you got to think to yourself, whichever team gets out of the blocks fastest, Alois, is going to possibly progress to the final of the Coppa Italia.
Yeah, very. We don't know which teams are going to come for this match. We don't really know after this break. But if we go by the form book of the time before the COVID virus pandemic stoppage, I don't really see AC Milan giving much problems to Juve this time around. I was not happy with the performance of AC Milan in the past matches, and Juventus were cruising at that time, and I see this one just going one way for me. I'm a AC Milan fan, but I don't see them giving Juventus problems if we look at the form book before the COVID virus stoppage.
The mouth-watering prospect, Mike, is the fact that no matter what happens in the semi-finals, we are likely to have a big final come the 17th of June, which will, of course, be 3 days before the resumption of Serie A proper, because the other semi-final stands at 1-0 to Napoli against Inter Milan. That will be played on Saturday. And these four teams are part of the aristocracy of Italian football, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. It will mean that there'll be a blockbuster final, and that's exactly what Italian football needs, just to reignite the passion and the excitement around the game after this enforced break as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. So the hope there is that it's a really good because it could end up as a Milan derby. If Inter and AC Milan pull through, it could end up as Juventus versus Napoli, which has been the modern rivalry in Serie A. The two top teams over the last 5 or so years have been Juventus and Napoli. It could end up as Juventus and Inter Milan, which is sort of like the game that a lot of people want because of Antonio Conte and the players that he's brought in at Inter Milan, and we saw how exciting the game was when the two clashed in the league. So the one thing that certainly Italian football is guaranteed is that there's going to be a big final on the cards whenever it is played.
And that's always a delicious prospect, and no doubt in England they'll be looking across and hoping that, oh my goodness, if only our FA Cup could recapture the magic of the FA Cup in this manner. Who knows? May just happen this season. Who knows whether we can continue? We do. We can't. We have to go. We'll catch you on Monday. Have a fantastic weekend. Zimbabwe, may God richly bless you. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Manande, out.
And it's Messi! It is the cleanest of clean finishes from the best on the planet.
The biggest sports stories.
Liverpool, the champions of Europe, are top of the world.
The biggest interviews.
That such a great spectacle is ruined by such thuggish behavior.
And all the analysis right here.
He's the one player that has the arrogance to think that he can play in any stadium in the world and any pitch in the world in front of any player in the world and take them on.
Every weekday, it's my sport, it's your sport. It's ZiFM Sport on ZiFM Stereo. My station, your station.